And I believe we are live. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
And welcome to Read, Rate, Review City of Brass edition. With myself, AJ, Jade, Cody, Gavin, and G. First off, before we get into City of Brass, we will be nominating our pick for the next 2 months. So we've got our nominations. Jade, if you want to start us off, what is your nomination for the next round?
My nomination is a winter book for August, and that is A Winter's Promise by Christelle DeVos. It is French translated into English, and it's about a girl who is being married off to this mysterious man from one of the colder areas. Winter, yay. And she also has the power to walk through mirrors.
Nice.
It sounds wonderful. Apparently
good.
It's really beautifully written, and also like when she touches objects she can like read the history of the object that she touches as well, so sounds really good. Wintry. Nice. Perfect for August.
It is perfect.
Love it.
Just 'tis the season.
Cody, what about you?
I'm going to nominate Kingdom of Souls by Rena, which Jade is very nicely holding it up because I haven't got a physical copy yet, but I will be getting on that because this sounds so good. Jade nominated it last time, so I'm stealing it for this one. And it's about a girl who comes from a witch doctor family, and she is desperate to have power. However, when she calls for that power, there is no answer. So she is coming up with some desperate measures. There's also a demon king and children going missing and different types of magic as well. Sounds really good. Heard so many good things about it. And I think that's more of an August book, although I'm happy to read this book too.
A bit warmer. Definitely a bit warmer.
Yeah, a little bit warmer.
Gav, what have you got for us?
I want to nominate Daughters of... which Jade can hold up as well. Jade, can you hold it up for me? I'm feeling like it. Jade, everyone hold it up. But I do want to nominate Daughters of Nurai by Rena K. Ameo. And all I really know about this one, I don't know a lot about it, but all I know is that there used to be gods on the earth, but then I think years ago they vanished because there was this big war, leaving these twin sisters who were separated. And I believe they are the last kind of people who have these goddess-like powers. And then things happen, apparently. So it must do for like 350 pages. So that, yeah, it sounds fantastic.
It's a good start.
It is. It's very appealing.
Beautiful. And G?
I got the Wicker King, which it's been on my shelves for a long time, and I always wanted to read and never did. So this one really caught my eye because it actually goes from like white pages to like darker pages to like black pages, depending on the mental state of the main character, because this is supposed to be a mental health journey with these two guys, and one starts seeing hallucinations or experiencing hallucinations. I'm not sure if they're visual, and the other one, without really knowing how to help, decides to just go with it, and they go on like a venture, and it's one of those that has like pictures and like inserts, and it just looks like a really interesting formatting. And I saw like, wait, I'll find the brains. I was like, okay, we're gonna do this. So regardless of whether or not, I'm probably gonna read this really soon because I should have ages ago. It's the story of my life. I don't read, just outing myself. I don't read. But I'm very excited about that.
But you went City of Brass, so
I did. A miracle, really. That was the last book I read. No, there was one more.
Good.
A tiny one. Anyway.
Well, City of Brass is a good segue there. That is our nominations, and I assume G, you will have a link for voting,
that
which you'll post in the chat. And then, yes, we can move on to City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty.
I like how you're just
our book.
to the point. Whenever I like host, like it's like 30 minutes. JHG is like 4 minutes. Let's go.
Oh, sorry. Feel free to chat and discuss more if you want to.
No, found it amazing.
We need to bring winter to August. That's my chat. There we go.
I'm currently very warm, so I could do with that, to be fair.
It's been too hot for too long.
Okay, City of Brass. What we'll do is just do some basic ratings, a thumbs up or a thumbs down, just a quick general, how did we feel? I will go in reverse order to which I just went. So, G, what did you rate it? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Any one-liner thoughts?
I have rated it a 4 stars. It was, I think, a lower 4, but still not too close to 3, if you know. So if we're not going into any more details, that's that.
Okay.
I love it.
Gav?
Just left me wanting more there. I also gave it a 4-star. It's actually my favorite read rate review book so far. But I mean, the rest of them I've only ever really given 3 stars, so it's a step in the right direction. So I did enjoy. Yeah, it's a step up. So I enjoyed it. I gave it like 8 out of 10. Like it was like definitely a great start to a series because I know there's more to come, and I just felt like it was very engrossing. But I couldn't really tell whether it was supposed to be YA or adult. I think there is an argument for both. But I kind of struggled with what the book was trying to do with the audience, if you know what I mean. So we can talk about that later. But yeah, I struggled with where it should have fell, to be honest. But I still enjoyed it.
Okay. Nice. And Cody?
I gave it 4 stars. I struggled for a little bit in the middle there, but that might have just been my general frame of mind whilst I was reading it. So I don't know if that was just me. So happy to discuss the pacing later and all the terms and things. But the ending saved it for me. It came from my throat, and oh my God, I want to read the sequel. I was not expecting it to hit that hard because, like Gav, I thought this is going to be so YA. Everyone's going to be safe. And then the adultness came out with the real consequences, which I loved.
Yeah.
And Jade?
I gave it a high 4-star. It came out pretty highly on my spreadsheet. I fell in love with it. I really did love it, and I think the sequel is going to be absolutely wild. It's definitely one that I'm looking forward to diving into because this setup, not only was this great as itself, but I think it's set up for something even greater.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. Well, my rating is a little bit different. I went with 2 stars in the end, according to Corpile.
Oh my God!
So it got 4.5, which I believe is like a point away from being 3 stars. So it's like 2.5 stars if you want to get really specific, or 45%. So nearly half marks, which I think is good.
I'm so glad.
There's always got to be one. Sorry, guys. 2 stars.
Everyone liked it. All those so close.
Yeah. A lot in the chat. Everyone is saying 4 stars, 4.5 stars, 5 stars. Then there was 1 3 star. So there's a lot of love. I am definitely in the minority on this one.
Go at it.
Well,
I think we all need to shut up and just listen to your thoughts. I have to know.
We'll get there. We'll get to the tea. Don't worry. But let's start on a positive. Jade, you loved it. What did you love about it? What were your high moments?
I loved Nari. I thought she was brilliant, but she's very typically the sort of character that I love. The kind of thuggish young girl that gets away with things in the streets. Like, she's not Lila Bardish, but almost a little bit Lila Bardish. She just totally my cup of tea, and I thought the atmosphere was incredible. I was so there for all of it. I think it really helped the way I read it as well. I listened to the audiobook and read it physically at the same time. I think that helped to digest it all. because I know people can say it can be a bit heavy because there's a lot of geography and history around the world. So I think it helped to digest it. And also, I remember speaking to Cody, I think, about this. I was saying about the way that I started out with reading it, because I had heard that it was quite dense at the beginning with the geography and the history, is that I didn't pay attention to it. Like, if it mentioned all of the historic families and lands and stuff, I just kind of brushed over that and thought, if it's important, it'll come back later. And I think it did. So I think that really helped the pacing. So I got straight into the plot and fell in love with the characters.
Fantastic. Overall, just loved it then. Cody?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a 5-star, but it wasn't a 5-star. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves.
We'll wait to the con section.
But yeah,
okay.
Move on.
Go on, Cody. What were you thinking? What was your favourite moments?
The ending, especially. I did enjoy the court politics. I always love some court politics in a book. But one of my main kind of bugbears, which is always the same one with me, is that I didn't really have any connection with the romance. I wasn't shipping because it felt so quick. There wasn't a ton of build up, you know? So that was a bit like unbelievable for me. Like the kind of predicament and ultimatum that she's given. I'm like, yeah, but come on. I don't know. I just didn't believe it that much, but I just loved the ending so much. I was like sat gasping as I was reading it, like, oh my God, this did not happen. I blew my mind. So that's definitely saved it for me. But yeah, I agree with Jade as well. The atmosphere and just disregarding anything you don't, pick up on. So that anything that is necessary, that you'll retain the information basically. So I kind of went into that with the same mindset as Jade as well.
And so what about the end was it that you loved so much specifically? Like what moments?
Are we into spoiler territory yet?
Are we not doing spoilers?
No, we are. So just
check.
One who has not read, we will go into spoilers. So
yeah, this is a spoiler review.
Okay.
It's spoilers. It's fine.
Yeah. The lake scene did it for me.
It did.
The lake theme.
The lake scene, where he's and he comes and he's got shells all over him.
Let's just say it, where Ali comes back out of the lake covered in the sea goodness and kicks butt.
Yeah. Loved it.
So
Loved it.
Do you think that falls under resurrection trope? I hadn't thought about it until just then. But
yeah, it kind of does, but I don't mind if it's not just fan service, but also it means that it's going to be better for the sequel. And I think it's the second case. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's fan service. I don't think we'll have like a love interest kind of character that, everything has to be happy by the end of the book. It's definitely a case of this means that there's so much more to explore within this world. So I didn't mind it too much.
Yeah.
Also, it added to the plot because obviously there's this character now, rather than just like, oh, whoopsies, no, actually not dead.
Exactly.
I don't think they did it to the extent where it made you feel like they would stay dead. Like, I hate resurrection tropes where they're dead for a while and everybody grieves and like, oh my God, I've lost this person, I'll never see them again. But then they come back. That's what I hate. So I didn't feel like this one was done in a bad way, which is one of the things why I liked the way it was done, especially since Cody said, like, it's going to, set up the sequel just so brilliantly. And as long as it serves a purpose, then the resurrection trope can be done well. And I felt it was done well because I thought Chakraborty did such a phenomenal job writing this book. I thought it was very well written. And I really don't like court politics. I don't like marriage politics or anything like that in books. I just because I find it so hard to keep up with all of that. And I don't get, you know me, I'm too much of a middle grade reader for me to understand these kind of things, which is why it kind of fell a little bit into adult for me, because I was getting a little bit lost with a lot of the threads that were being handed, like in the plot and with all the characters and all of that. So that's where I struggled a bit, but I definitely agree with sorry, AJ. Definitely, because I'm usually the one who's negative about the book, so now it's like the shoes on the foot. So no, I thought because it was so well written, even though I do have some issues with things like the romance and things I just really didn't care for, but I could overlook that when a book is like very well written and it was a lot more action based than it was anything else. Like for me personally, that's what I enjoyed about it, was the fast paced plot. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that one.
I think
So when sorry to interrupt, when Ali turned, did anybody see the foreshadowing coming for that he had married abilities or powers? Did anyone? Or was it a complete shock to everyone?
because they spoke about him swimming so much, I kind of knew there's going to be something to do with water. I just thought it was going to be something to do with water and his mother. Well, just kind of have the mother thing involved. But I just want to come back to the resurrection part, because it is one of my least favorite tropes ever. I feel like I've been vocal about that. I didn't mind his, but because we have two, I don't like that. I think
Dara hasn't actually been resurrected yet, though, has he? Like,
what I mean, come on.
Yeah, like it's gonna happen, obviously. Yeah, but like,
so it's just because of that. Because, like you said, Gab, like especially if it's gonna be a lot of grieving, then, which I think is just gonna happen. So it kind of,
it's gonna be dragged out. Yeah, I think it's gonna be dragged out.
I think she'll think that he's dead for I don't know how long. I have not read the second one, but I suspect that she'll think that he's dead for probably a good chunk of the second book. And it's just like, one, I don't mind. When it's two, it's a bit like it's getting, a lot.
Yeah, get over it. yeah, that's what I just want to shout at them. Just get over their death. Come on, they're coming back. It's fine.
And Gav, with you, was it the writing style and the pace that was your sort of highlights of the book, or
it was
something in specific?
Just because I like adventure stories, and this felt like an adventure story for quite a lot of it, with Dora's and Nori's kind of adventure getting to Dagobah. I don't know how to pronounce these things, but I kind of just enjoyed that aspect of it, was like coming across different things on their path, like with the dead rising, and it just seemed like something exciting was happening at each point on this this bigger map in this world. And because it was written so well, I mean, I'm not too sure about the pacing, because I think with Cody I did find it a bit slower in the middle, because I think it started to focus a little bit on a bit of a love triangle well, not love triangle, because the whole thing with Ali doesn't really come into it yet, but like with Nori and Dora, I just didn't care for it, and I felt like it was starting to focus a bit too much on that rather than what I was enjoying, which was the fast pacedness of it and what the characters were experiencing and the things that were happening, such as like the dead rising and just like their lives being in peril. I'd rather see their lives be in peril than them fall in love. I'd rather someone die than fall in love. I mean, that's just the kind of reader I am. So, yeah.
Fair play, yeah.
So macabre.
See, I liked them, but I didn't like this one, because I just never felt like we were just going through this whole journey, and they barely really spoke, and whenever they spoke, it was always like kind of just like back and forth and like kind of jokes, or nothing really connecting that much. And then like that cave scene happened, and I was like, whoa. Like, I know that people feel very strongly about this ship, and I just like this ship is so far away from me. Like it's like 5 seas away. Like I just don't get it. Like I don't get it at all. And also, it bothers me that he's so much older. I never get kind of icky. It's like the whole Farah situation.
No, I agree. I didn't find any sort of romance in it, and I think I mentioned to you, G, it was more the way I saw it was sort of like a lust for each other rather than an actual romance, because I didn't feel they had that much emotional connection really. It was just more like Nari thought he was super hot, and they just seemed to be fighting like in every scene they were in together, and he would never tell her the full truth, and he would sort of half truth her. I don't know, it just didn't seem like a healthy like, oh yeah, I get that romance.
That's
so that was definitely a negative for me.
Maybe it was like
that's why I thought
there was a lot of traveling, I guess, we didn't see.
That's why I kind of thought like it felt a bit more YA because of all that stuff, like with the lusting and the kind of dramatics that didn't really need to happen between the characters. That's why I felt it came across as very YA in that respect. I mean, yes, definitely adult by the time you get to the end, but it was just the character interactions just brought that level down a bit. And Ashley said it's sold as adult in the UK. yeah, I've seen it in like the adult section and like Waterstones and stuff, but then I'm like, I don't know, like it could
handled by publishers.
Yeah, it's so like but it feels like it has that cross divide, and it's the way that the character interactions are done. I felt it just felt a little bit younger than it needed to be. Like it could have been done in a way that was more. I don't know, because I would need specific examples, but I just remember how I felt at the time, and I just rolled my eyes so much at their interactions because I just didn't care. I just wanted people. I wanted the dead to come and get them.
Was anyone else annoyed? Like, I kept getting frustrated that she just wouldn't ask somebody why he was the Scourge, because clearly she didn't want to be turned off by him. But I was just like, just ask someone, Hen. Come on.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something that you should probably ask but don't want to, because in the deep down, maybe you don't want to know.
You don't want to know, and you know that the truth is going to make you see them differently, and you're not prepared for that.
Yeah. Just good old denial.
He's her little hero.
Like, she'd yell at him for not telling her himself, and I'm like, dude, just ask anyone that you're around.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, because it seems like everyone knows. It's like very common history, right? It seems like it wouldn't be something that was that hard to find.
Yeah.
It's like if it was Mal, she would have stalked him. Come on, online. Like, that's just. I don't know.
I will get to you, G, but Lisa L here said that she liked Ali and his chapters more than Nari's. What do people think of that? Did people prefer Nari or Ali?
I was about
their
to
chapters.
add something to that same thought. So I personally really like Nari's character, just in general. She was like one of the main female characters, at least, that I've read that I didn't want to just like move on.
Yeah.
But my favorite chapters actually come from Alice, and especially at the beginning when he sneaks out to help this basically, what are they called? Rebels, I suppose. And the whole
Shafi, isn't it?
Yeah, then the whole scene with him then running and then the guy sacrificing himself like that. I wanted more. I wanted him more to be involved more into that side of things. And I thought he would be through the rest of the book. And then he just kind of didn't. So I wish there was more of that. But that part I really liked. So it really got me kind of invested in his character.
Yeah. What does everybody else think? Gav, would you think Ali or Nari? Which one do you prefer?
Oh, it's hard because I did really enjoy the travel aspects of like Nari's, but then again, I felt like for half of the book I preferred Nari's, and then for the other half I maybe preferred Ali's, because we started to get into, like, as I said, I don't really like politics in books, just because I'm sure I would love it, but I just can't wrap my head around all the words and the lingo that's going on and all the things that I need to remember about titles or about what people have to do, and that just, it goes so over my head. So for a big chunk of like Nari's sections, it was to do with that. So I felt like both of them had pros and cons. But I probably do prefer Nari as a character because I do find her rather kick-ass, and I liked following her. And yeah, but it's hard. It is hard. But like, fortunately, I think it was written so well in a way that at least neither point of view dragged the book down, because I've read so many books where there might be multiple point of views, like more than two, and there'll always be at least one that makes me just roll my eyes, makes me want to just skip their parts completely. But neither of them made me want to do that during the entire book, so I thought that was good. There was times where I wanted to skim and just like, I really don't care for, all of this stuff that's going on, like with the marriage politics and things. So it was, fortunately there were pros and cons for both, and neither of them dragged the book down. So I can't really choose, but for now I'd probably say Nari's, just because of the like her main chunk. Yeah, I think so.
It's really interesting because I don't like the traveling scenes. I like when they stay like in the same place. I don't know why. I think I always preferred the kind of like set and put.
Yeah.
It was travel, because I always just imagined that montage, and I always felt like a funny
from Shrek, I'm on my way from mystery to happiness today. Yeah, I get that. It's like I get that as well. Like I like it when the things are set in place because it allows you to establish the setting and you can sort of picture it better rather than just like moving from one place to the other. Yeah, I totally get that. And it's also like, say for like The Walking Dead or something, you know how they would always move from place to place and you felt like you couldn't remain in a certain place because they had to keep moving, and it meant you couldn't connect to any one place because you thought, oh well, they're not going to be there for long, so it's fine, you know, they can just like move on to the next one. So I definitely felt it that way as well. Yeah, I see what you did there, Jay. I see it.
Cody, which one's your favorite?
It started.
Do you have one?
Yeah, it started off being Ali because I like the politics and I love an internal struggle between heart and head. You know, he wants to do right by everybody, but he has this loyalty to his family and he's finding out about all the corruption. I liked that side. But then I became more invested in Nari once she started learning magic because I loved that. I loved learning about all the different ways and all these weird things that were going on with the Deva and the Jinn that were just strange ailments and the weird ways that you'd have to fix them. And I just wanted more of that. So I don't know if we'll actually get any more of that in the second book, maybe not being trained, but I'm excited for her to discover more of what she can do. So that's when I was like reinvested in her because I didn't really care too much about the back and forth with her and Dara because I just thought it was a bit odd because it was like so quick.
I feel like thankfully there wasn't a lot of it though as well. Like I don't think those were definitely not my favorite parts, but I also don't think that it was a lot. If you know what I mean, like of Dara and Nari, at least, especially in the second half of the book, I feel like they never even were together. yeah, that's when I kind of started being more invested in her, though. After the journey was over, I was like, "Oh, he's gone now. We can concentrate on the magic." Cool.
And Jade, is Nari your favorite POV?
You know, I don't think I can pick between them because I did enjoy both for similar reasons that Cody said. Like I loved seeing the politics and like inner workings from Ali's perspective and the difference between heart and head and the rebellion and how dirty his family are. But also I liked seeing like the wonder from Nari's perspective and how she's experiencing all this for the first time, and it's all so beautiful and so new and so exciting to her. But then also she does get wrapped up in that politics and also finds out that his family's gay. So I like them both. I do.
Yeah. I'm not sure which one was mine. I think they're pretty even for me. Maybe Ali slightly more, but there's not really too much in it for me. But G, we still haven't touched on your favourite moment or highlight. Any bits that stand out for you as positive?
Yeah. When Ali's brother was with the woman, and then he was like, "Do you want me to look at your like finance notes?" And the brother was like, "Oh." You know, when he had sex because Ali is just so like naive.
Yeah.
That really stood out to me because I love it when a book basically like sweet.
Did you get a lot of laughs from the book? Did you find it funny in general? Or
no, not particularly. I wouldn't say that. This is like a humorous book, but like I just really enjoyed how they all take this up with him because he is so naive, obviously. That's one of his characteristics I definitely. Yeah. So he's just so naive and so like a puppy. I actually enjoyed that because I feel like he's, especially now that he's been, you know, banished, he's gonna have to grow up real fast, and I'm really excited. Like Nari might be my like more favorable character, but I am way more excited about Ali going forward because I think that his journey is going to be really interesting now because obviously he has to like fend for himself and live outside a palace, and you know, this little princeling now has to go and survive because we know that he's going to be targeted a lot as well. So I'm just really excited to see what happens to him. Sorry, what was the question?
your favorite bit, your favorite moment, scenes.
Well, it was like
have more than one.
Talking and trying to think. Also, what was the question? Yeah, and also I really love the end, but I think I love the different kind of end because I'm not big on fight scenes. So the fight scenes, I'm always just like, oh, whatever, you know, I'll just kind of skim through them. So I did like it. I did enjoy it because at that point I was already like kind of rooting for people. But I also just kind of thought that no one's gonna die, and kind of no one did. which I hate. I would love for someone to, die at least a little bit. Like a little bit permanently, But I also really, really enjoyed that very last part that really made me like, oh, I want to buy the next book, because that guy, I'm terrible with names, but that guy that's the
Jamshid, who is Narid. Is that who you're talking about?
The king's like advisor, I think he is, or something.
Is it Kaveh?
Kave's son.
Kaveh.
Kaveh and his son, yeah.
Yeah, that the fact that he was the person who was the world leak, and then his son is actually related to Nari or something, and that he is behind the resistance. And obviously, I don't think that was really set up, but if it was, then I totally did not see it coming. But I really welcome that, so I'm really excited to also see what happens with that.
Yeah, it was a lot of twists going on at the end. I'm not sure I have any like huge standout moments. I think the world in general was pretty interesting. Definitely complex at time. It wasn't very clear. Considering I've read a lot of bigger fantasy books, I feel that this was probably one of the most confusing to understand, because there were a lot of different factions that were the same, or like to be called certain things, but they were the same. And I found it a little bit tricky at times, but other than that, I enjoyed the world building and pretty much most of the scenes that Ali's dad was in as well. I found him quite an interesting character. He's obviously got a lot of knowledge and power about what's going on that you don't see on the page. And that last scene with him and Ali as well, I think was probably quite emotional, or had some of the most emotional weight of the book. So yeah, that was probably my favorite. But now, go on.
What I found especially confusing, because you mentioned the book is confusing, the interchangeability of Jinn. Because I kept getting at moments I'd be like, okay, I understand. So Jinn are the old ones, and then not the old ones. Devas are the old ones, and the Jinn are the ones that like took over, right? But then from Ali's perspective, everyone just called everyone Deva, and I'm just like, but I thought Deva were kind of extinct, so it just kept like that was annoying to me. Basically.
Yeah. There was definitely, it wasn't the easiest to hold in your head. That's what I found anyway. It wasn't the clearest to understand all the factions. What do you think, Jade? Because since you're a fan, were you able to pick up on it pretty easy? Do you understand all the factions?
Between the Deva and the Jinn thing, it definitely, there were moments where I was like, oh, I get it. So like, because Dara couldn't stand being called a Jinn, because he was like, no, they're the worst. That's like the ultimate insult. Don't call me that dirty word. But then at other times, like, they were all Deva or they were all Jinn. It definitely did get a bit murky. Other than in those like very distinct scenes where Dara's going, rah, don't call me that. Okay.
Yeah, well, since we're heading into a negative, let's flip it over. What are the cons that everybody had? The worst points of the book that you found? G, what was your least favourite aspect or aspects?
The romance.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the same for all of us.
Yeah, I'm with her.
Yeah. I again will say that I don't think that it was the main focus for the majority of the book, which I'm grateful for. But whenever it did, kind of like, I just didn't buy it, and I felt really bad because I knew from like reading it, obviously, reading the chapters, I knew that I'm supposed to be like either conflicted or like mad or invested or like care around that topic, and I just didn't. Even at the end when she's like, going and she tried to save Dara, right? Like she tried to do something. And even then I was like, but why? Like I never felt even a connection between them, let alone a romantical one. So it was just kind of like, I don't know, it was something not adding up to me personally between the two characters. What else? I actually did not really enjoy the traveling scene. It was one of those moments that I was like really struggling to pick it back up. But in my
which scene was that? Sorry.
just the traveling scene, like the beginning.
Traveling scenes.
I think it's also because I don't like the sea setting or the desert setting. So it might be because of that. Like it might not have helped. but it wasn't horrible because we also got to see a lot of like monsters come to life, and also the backstory droplets, like that wasn't my favorite as well, because I understand that we need to learn, but it was such a like textbook. Let me tell you about this world here by the fire with this black backflash, you know. I didn't mind it. It's not a massive like fault or anything, but because you're asking for like negatives, so I'm just like giving them to you. And I think another one was the Jin Deva confusion, and also I'm just really bad with, this is completely on me, this is not the book's fault, but I am just really bad with words. But I'm even worse if it's like the names, but it's even worse to me if it's just like a lot of them and then a lot of like almost like a different language, and then it's really hard for me to know which character is which. Like even now you guys said the name of the dude that like has the sun for the resistance and stuff, I already don't remember it. Like it's just in my head. So it's just kind of like, but this is a me problem. This is not a book problem, but it's still, it was a negative for me.
Yeah. Gav, what are you thinking?
Just call me G, because I literally agreed with absolutely everything. It's literally
the G's.
Yeah, we are the G's.
Second layer.
We are on a different tier. I definitely agree, because there's just like so many words, and like I mentioned before, I do struggle with like names of different tribes, names of different, like especially made up words. There was like the Deva, the Jin, the Irift, the Married, the Afshin. There's just like a lot of words that I just couldn't process in like too short a period of time, because I do read pretty quickly and I do try and slow down. That's a me problem. I do need to slow down, especially when it's something like this. It's one of the reasons why I didn't enjoy the Game of Thrones books as much, because there was just so many words, there were so many different places, so many different names, there's just so many different things, and I just can't wrap my head around it in that. Like, it is a chunker of a book, like so it is my fault. Like, I do blame myself for this, like Jay said, but yeah, it was a bit dense-ish for me, but not too dense that I would say it was like the same as I had the same trouble as I had with Game of Thrones, the books. But yeah, it's that, and then the romance again, just not, it wasn't kicking it for me. If they're not doing it, I don't want to read it, you know. So yeah, that was pretty much. But I will say I am excited for the future. So yeah.
Okay, and Cody.
Same thing. Romance, and also the confusion between Deva and Jin and all these different terms and things. I found myself just kind of getting into this pattern where Ali would be using these terms and things as if the reader knows. And I'd be like, it's okay, I don't need to pay attention right now fully and try and work this out, because Dara will like basically explain this to Nari in an upcoming chapter, so it'll be fine, I'll get it then. I found it kept doing that. So every so often I'd be like, okay, I don't understand this right now, but it's cool because this will probably be reiterated within a couple of chapters than it usually was. But it did mean that I was pulled out occasionally and had to be like, no, carry on. Don't think about it too much. It'll click when it clicks. But yeah, mostly just the romance, like everyone else has said. Just didn't buy it.
Call us all, Jay. Call us all, Jay.
Kelly here has said that the audio book helped them a lot with the reading because of the pronunciations. Did anybody audiobook?
Yeah, I did audio and physical. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What? All of you did? What? I didn't. Yeah. I should have.
What did you think of the audiobook? If you listened to it, did you think it was a good audiobook, good narration?
Yeah. It's another thing where once you know how something is pronounced, you don't have to keep stalling on that word to try and get the pronunciation right in your brain, because you can just read it quicker because you know. Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's my favorite is the audio, like the narrator. I think it's also just a me problem on this one, but she just seems so flirtatious in the way that she narrates. It was very like, I couldn't listen to that in bed. Let's just say it. Just
wow.
in my
Fair play. Fair play. Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I didn't get the flirtatious aspects like G did. I thought it was pretty good narration. I definitely
like the way that she definitely like caressing.
You have a tough time with female narrators in general, though, don't you, G?
I find the male ones easier to understand, especially with the accent. I don't know why. I think it's maybe the frequency. I don't know. It's a bilingual brain thing. I don't know.
Jade, what were you thinking on worst aspects? Anything you wanted to add?
It's definitely the romance. We're all agreed on it. That cave scene was just really out of place and very sudden and a bit jarring and uncomfortable because there was no tension or chemistry building up to it. It definitely just happened. And then later on when they're talking about a marriage for Nari and she's like, well, you're not married, you can marry me. It's like, girl, what? Calm down. Why? You don't know this man. You know nothing about his history, nothing about who he really is. Just because he's available and the man you've known for the longest period of time does not mean you have to marry him. Chill.
Very true.
Definitely
Very
that.
true.
And everything that you've already said about the differences between all of the different races was a bit all over the place.
Yeah. Very true. Yeah, I had the same, obviously, with the romance. I mean, I did generally think the book was okay, but the biggest thing for me was that I didn't emotionally connect. I'm definitely very character-driven when I read, and I feel there was a very little emotional journey or character arc in this book. I think the characters were pretty flat and stayed the same, essentially, from when we introduced them. And I feel there was a moment where Nari, or a couple of moments where Nari was meant to have an emotional climax, and it didn't resonate with me because I felt it wasn't earned. There was a moment where she said she did the most un-Nari-like thing she could do, or the most un-Nari-like thing she could imagine. She ran into danger. And I thought that was a really weird line. I felt it was meant to be a big climax because obviously she was chasing after Ali and Dara on the ship. But if you'd have asked me, will Nari run into the ship at this moment? I would have always said yes. I always felt like she was the character that would run into danger. So I just found that really weird. And then also the very end scene, her last scene, where everybody starts bowing to her. And she said, so it was frustrating when someone upended your well-laid plans. It's why you never stopped plotting alternatives. And so Nari smiled. Nari always smiled at her marks. And I was like, I feel like at no point did she plot or plan for this to happen. She just completely lucked into everybody worshipping her and was like, hey, I got my mark. And I just felt like, what? That was a weird ending. I just felt if there was meant to be a journey there where she tried to scheme and got caught and kept failing, but then eventually had some master plan where she came out on top, I would have got it. But I just felt it was really flat. And because I didn't emotionally connect, go on. Okay. Am I wrong?
The way that I understood it is that didn't have a plan before, but that she decided that now she's going to play them. That's how I understood it, because I think you can play me, because obviously he forced her into staying here. She was like, well, I've this game before and now you're all my marks. That's how I understood it, but I don't know if it was
as being the beginning of her plan, the way you get someone to be your mark in the first place.
That's how the book's
smile at them.
Marks when the man walked into her tent.
It
was like
see, I did think that, and I was like, okay, maybe that's the way it's going. In which case, my point is still the same, because there was no emotional journey in that story. Then there was nothing, and that's kind of what I like to connect with, which mostly I think is a problem from this middle part of the book, which a lot of people have said they maybe found it a little bit slower, and I basically had something to say the same, because Nari and Dara don't reach David Bard until page 250, and the book is 500 pages, so halfway through. And from the 40-page mark, Nari and Dara are in the desert. So I just feel there's 200 pages there where Nari and Dara basically stay the same. We get a little bit more of Dara's back history, so we're maybe a bit more sympathetic. But it's just 200 pages of them in the desert are like, oh, Nari's in trouble, and Dara saves her, and Dara's in trouble, and Nari saves him, and then it just kept happening, and nothing was changing. It was just like, I found it a bit repetitive and boring, and I feel like that was the moment where there should have been more emotional conflict and tension and stakes.
Like, saving each other thing was supposed to be what built up the like chemistry between them, and it just
I mean, I understand that, but I still don't like feel like it's a good emotional thing. Like, just because they saved each other's lives doesn't mean they'll work as a couple. Like, I don't know. Yeah, but I get that. I get that's probably how they bonded, because they'd been through intense situations. But for me, it didn't really.
It didn't come across.
Resonate emotionally.
No.
Let's be honest.
Just going back to that first point about the ending where she says, like, you all are my marks, basically. I really liked that because it was almost like it was the first time she had agency in this book, or any real amount of it, because throughout the whole thing, she's just going along with Dara's plan and then going along as to what the king needs her to be. And I was like, oh, finally, she's going to do her own thing in the second book. That was another reason as to why I was going to pick it up.
I feel like she didn't even have a choice.
Yeah,
I feel like she lost everything.
Yeah.
She lost Dara and she lost Ali, and those were the only like people who could actually help her out.
Yeah.
Weird situation that she's now at. And so I think she just kind of got done with it, and it was like, well.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. I feel like a lot of this book was almost set up for future stories. Like, they've laid the groundwork and the lore and the world building, and like set these characters on interesting paths. I think future books would be good, but I definitely felt like a setup or a world build book for sure. What did you guys think of Muntadir and Jamshid? Do you think they're going to end up together, or do you think they're just going to stay best friends? Because there's kind of hints towards them.
Who are they?
So the son of the king and the king's advisor's son, the one that's now a Nahid.
Gotcha.
Like his best friend, training partner, always together.
I kind of hope, but I feel like also bad because clearly the prince dude played him all the time, so that's kind of shit.
So you think is there relationship potential there, Gav, Cody? What do you think? Do you think they're going to stay?
I think so. It's going to happen, and I'm excited to see it because it will lead to more emotional conflicts.
Yeah, and I think that's what you said that was missing for you, AJ, was like the emotional connect to characters. And I feel like when we get more of that, I feel like I will probably start to care a bit more about these like connections between the characters. Like, I already feel rather connected to like Nori and Ali rather than like anyone else, to be honest. Like, I would probably cry if like Nori died, but for other people, it's like at the minute I'm not invested in anybody else but the main characters, so it's a hard one for me. I mean, I see it happening, I do, and it might make for interesting scenes in the next book or the third book. I don't know how many books there's going to be in this series. I don't know how much build up there has to be, but I don't know. There's going to be 4.
Is it 4? I thought it was just a trilogy. Oh, okay.
3.
Yeah, so the last one just came out, didn't it?
Oh, I'm so interested to see what people think, like who love the first one, think of the next two, because I feel like since all of us, I mean, we wouldn't go as far as saying we love it. AJ definitely not, but I would just love to see if like it's worth continuing, because if this is a series, like say Arc of the Scythe, just for example, if it's going to end on a bum note, then am I going to want to carry on reading? I don't know. So, but like, yeah, I'm sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but yeah, no, I like seeing that. I like seeing the potential of what can happen with these characters. So yeah.
And is everybody else going to read the sequel or interested in reading a sequel?
Yeah.
Potential. I don't know if it folds out that way. And even then, like, this was a chomper of a setup, and I still struggle per se. I mean, there were definitely bits that I did a little bit, especially in the middle. There was this one church scene when they were talking about the marriage thing. That took me like a week to get just like checking my phone and just like doing other stuff because I just didn't really care. And I think that was like a theme for every chapter that like Dara and Nari were together. I was just kind of struggling more in that, but even then, I think the end and all the reveals and all of the potential, like I think she's done the ending really well to the point where I just really want to read the second one. like at the moment, like just like, but.
Yeah, same. I have started the second book, so even though I didn't give this one the higher rating, I'm interested enough to see where it's going to go. And I think they're definitely a very talented writer, and I'll definitely try any different series they do, and at least this second book to see where it goes. We only have 10 minutes left. I've got another couple of questions. What do you think of the villain situation in this book? Do you think there was one villain? Is there a standout villain from anybody? And is that a pro or a con, if there is or isn't?
I don't think there is one, and I like that. Because like this is a similar situation to like very different, but like just because it's so well known, it's similar to like Game of Thrones. You get a little bit of humanity of every character, but also flaws in many, and I like that.
Yeah.
Especially with the king in that scene. Especially obviously at first we're just like, oh, he's bad, and you get that scene when he's talking with Ali, and it's all like really, it's layered, and they're just doing what they think is best. Like every villain obviously always does something while thinking is the right thing to do, and I like that it's also shown from their perspective rather than just from our. Just like the bad guy,
Yeah. So a lot of like all the characters basically have conflict with each other rather than just one. I guess it's a bit more realistic that way. Although I did find that was another thing I had an issue with, was that I did find that their goals became a little bit murky towards the back half. Like when Nari was a healer and Ali had given up the rebellion, both of them didn't really have a set goal. Nari was just kind of healing, and Ali was just kind of milling about. There didn't seem a lot of like forward progression at that point. Like a strong, because at that point I feel in other books they probably would have been like, okay, we need to do this to take down the bad guy, but they were kind of a bit more nebulous in that regard, I guess, unfocused, I would say.
Is that
kind of slowed
the point when, because Muntada and Dara went off to hunt for the Ifrit?
Yeah.
Was that around then? So like the bad guy was kind of being taken care of by the adults. So was that around that same time? So Ali and Nari didn't really have to think about the threat that the Ifrit posed.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what I mean. There was definitely a lack of a goal, and I think even when Dara came back for a little while, it was still a little bit unfocused right up until the moment Dara and Ali started fighting, and he abducted him and all of that. I think that's the moment where goals started to happen again. Yeah, it was definitely a bit slow for me. I'm not sure if I enjoy it or not, although I did find it weird. I could definitely tell the author's hand there, where like Dara was just really eager to get away. And then when he came back to fight Ali, I just found it really sudden, and as if Dara just had a sudden emotional shift. I'm not sure if that's going to be gone into more in following books, but for him to be so passionate about hunting them down, and then suddenly he was like, oh, it's fine, I'll just leave them to it.
Yeah,
it was just... Anybody else, any thoughts on that? We're okay with the villain?
Unless there's something else we don't know there, because the Ifrit say they're working for Manaza, and then at the end, the guy, whatever his name was, is working with Manaza, and Jamshid's dad's working with Manaza, and Nizreen is working with Manaza. So like Manaza's clearly still about somewhere, and maybe the bad guys in the Ifrit aren't actually the bad guys, and maybe Dara knows more about that, because isn't he supposed to be tied to Manaza as well? So a threat that's not really a threat.
Yeah, it's definitely so, because obviously somebody was controlling him because he had the powers that he shouldn't have had and all this sort of thing. Or there's definitely something going on that will come out more in the next book. The final question I've got, the last few minutes, and if would you say this book is a tragedy? Because I felt like it was a tragedy, because I felt like it almost wasn't very uplifting, and a lot of the characters started in a worse position than they did at the beginning of the book. Like Nari kind of had a semi-stable place, and now she's kind of in a bit of a dicey situation. The same with Ali. He's out in the desert. Dara's obviously dust. It just seemed a little bit... The ending was almost, a bit grim in a way. Do you agree with that, or do you think it was...
Liked it.
Yeah, I liked it.
Can you say that about the one book out of a trilogy, or do you have to judge the whole trilogy? I'm not.
No, just on the first book, like just the first book. Would you say it was a tragedy? Because I thought it was pretty tragic, the first book.
Yeah, I would say so. There is no happy outcome in this book for anybody.
The same thing about Mistborn, though. No, like it
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a negative. I'm just saying.
I thought about it, so I find it interesting.
Well, because I would say in I can't really speak about Mistborn because that would be spoilers, I guess, for that series. But I wouldn't say Mistborn is that as such. But I was just interested to see if anybody else thought it was a tragedy or not. Just because they're pretty rare. Normally, it is sort of normally it is a sort of more uplifting, happy note at the end. It was good. It was refreshing in many ways. We do have 5 minutes left until the end of the show. Did anybody have any final thoughts or anything that they thought of that they want to say now?
I have them.
Yeah. Go on, G.
Because I forgot when you asked what was your kind of least favorite part. I forgot my main least favorite part.
Oh my!
Which was the whole shipping, because you mentioned the author's hand, and the moment that I realized that just didn't fit into the book, it was for the plot's sake, I thought, was when Dara comes back after that argument with Ali and the brother, and then he just goes okay, you're going with me, I don't even care if you consent or not, I am taking you away. And I was like, hello? That was really out of character for me. I know he was always a bit iffy about being there, but he that was his idea to begin with. And then the part where he didn't give her a choice was really off to me. That felt really forced for the sake of the plot. So that was my main, that probably dropped it a star, I'd say, because it took me out when I was reading. I was like, this is weird.
Yeah, I think it was done so that the author could kill him off at the end and not feel guilty about it. He would have had to have done something kind of unforgivable by taking away her choice. And that was sort of, but I agree though, it came out of nowhere. But I think it was literally just so that she could go through with what she had in mind. And maybe she wrote is the author male, female, non-binary? I don't know.
Female, as far as I'm aware.
Female? Okay, so maybe she didn't have a plan for the end. Maybe while she was writing it, she got to a certain point, she was like, oh, I had this great idea of everyone dying at the end and Dara and all of that. So maybe she thought, well, I need to do something. I need Dara to do something to make him a bit villainous, and he might end up being the villain in the second book when he obviously gets resurrected or whatever. So
I would prefer that. I would much prefer that rather than a love interest.
He can be the angel to Nori's Buffy, if you know what I mean. So it's I feel like that's the direction it could go. So that's probably why she did that. But it was like whiplash. It just came out of nowhere. Yeah.
I like the ending.
Does anybody have any?
It's great.
Does anybody have any predictions, thoughts? Where do they think things are going to go from here?
Where do we go from
I listened to 2 chapters of the second one right after, and then I stopped because I much prefer it physically. But so I don't want to say.
Okay. I'm not sure if I do have any big theories as such. I mean, I think Monizer obviously, but I'm not sure if I have any big theories. It'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah.
Love Jade.
Wait. Oh, Jade's frozen,
She's
right?
Frozen.
Shall we all try and see if we can freeze?
Just looking and blinking again.
Are there any final questions from anybody? Is there anybody out there that wants to ask a question? I don't know if my chat is working properly or not, but
I don't forget to vote. Anyway, send the link again.
Yes, please vote. There we go. Jade's back.
Yeah, we're playing Be the Jade.
Yeah.
Yes, I think G is posting the link in the chat, and that's basically it for this month, unless anybody has any other things they'd like to say. Thank you for joining our live stream on City of Brass. Don't forget to vote. Click the link and vote for the next book. And we hope to see you next time on, do we have a date yet, G?
I think the Preliminary.
My Wi-Fi dropped out for so long there. Jesus.
It was
Welcome
fun
back.
for us. It was fun for us.
It was right.
Yeah.
Why? What did I freeze on? What was I doing?
So preliminary date is the 29th of August, but if anything changes, we'll let you guys know on Twitter because it changes often. So just
Speculatively, 29th of August, around that date, plus or minus a couple of weeks, probably. But yes, check out the Twitter. I don't know if you want to post the link there for that as well, G. But yes, go and vote, and we shall see you next time. Thank you, everybody.
thank you for hosting.
Bye.
Thank you, AJ.
No
Bye,
problem.
everyone.
Bye.